for Donald Trump. She was at a forum last night at Harvard, and she joins us right now from Boston, we believe. Kellyanne, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so tell us about this event you were invited to.
Well, every 4 years, the Harvard Kennedy School of Government invites the the campaign team for the winning campaigns. They also invite the primary candidate campaigns, which was really fascinating this year to watch the Republican aspirants who didn't become the nominee really take after many in the media about their coverage of the campaign. But I think the fireworks yesterday really were grounded in the fact that members of the Clinton campaign were still accusing us of things because they're still running the permanent campaign, I suppose, that just aren't true. The idea that we give a platform to certain people in this campaign, the idea that it's Jim Comey's fault, that Hillary Clinton has been in public life for decades, it's his fault why she lost. And I just was making the point to them that it's time for them to do what President Obama and Secretary Clinton have done, which is respect the election results, not talk about a rigged system or the popular vote. We won fairly and squarely by Mr. Trump getting 306 electoral votes. You need 270. We got 306, and that road ran through some pretty blue states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. I understand that they're angry. I understand some of them are bitter, but they made it very personal last night.
Yeah, they did.
So
Kellyanne,
let me make it electoral.
Kellyanne,
yes.
I went to the Kennedy School. I've been to the Institute of Politics, seen forums like this. They're almost always very civil, and the conversation is analysis on policy. Until last night. So we'll play a little bit of the exchange to get you to react to that specifically.
Okay.
Kind of sounds like they, you have depicted it perfectly. Historically, these have been civil conversations, but it was not civil yesterday. They were attacking you viciously. They sound like, maybe this is just what I feel, but they sound like sore losers, Kellyanne.
There is a bit of that in the air. And look, most of it was civil. It was a conversation about the mechanics and the messaging and the road to 270. But I do think some people are stuck in the permanent campaign and not really past the anger, grief, and denial stages and into the acceptance stages. But that's okay, because we won, and yesterday in Indianapolis, people got a taste of what it's going to be in a Trump-Pence administration. We are open for business. And he makes good on his campaign promises to help American jobs stay in America. He's already doing that before he's even inaugurated.
Kellyanne, last night, Donald Trump was at the Thank You America tour in Cincinnati, and the crowd went crazy for him. And he got out there, and he didn't tell any of the media that he was going to announce this. He gets out on stage, and he announces that General Mattis is going to be the Secretary of Defense. And he says, don't tell anyone. He said, my staff is going to be so mad at me for doing this. Y'all had no clue that he was going to do that, and what was your reaction?
We did not have a clue that he would do that at that moment. I didn't anyway, but that's okay. I have an ongoing clue that he's a very unconventional president-elect, and he's a master communicator and master connector with people, Ainsley. So he felt the moment was right. He had already obviously offered the position that was accepted to General Mattis. It's such a great pick to have a general at the Department of Defense at the Pentagon at a time when voters are saying to Donald Trump, make good on this mandate we've given you, that we've got strength through peace around the world, American exceptionalism, America first, whether it's America first at the carrier plant in Indianapolis or America first around the world. It's a fabulous pick, and look, this is the way Donald Trump communicates with people. He doesn't need to put out a press release. He doesn't need to have a press conference. He doesn't need to stand there with General Mattis necessarily. That will all come in due time, but here he did it the way he usually does, his way, his timeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the interview he did with Ainsley yesterday, he said that by the end of next week, it sounds like we'll know most of the names. Of course, the main horse race a lot of people are focused on, Kellyanne, is Secretary of State. And famously, a couple of nights ago here in Midtown Manhattan, Donald Trump sat down along with Reince Priebus and had dinner with Mitt Romney. You weighed in on the Mitt Romney choice over the past weekend. You still feel that way about whether or not he should wind up with the Secretary of State job?
Well, the most important thing I said is that this is Donald Trump's decision to make. Everyone knows that. He's in command and control of the cabinet decisions. And all of us, including me, will respect and support enthusiastically and actively whatever decisions he makes. I was just trying, Steve, to reflect what I heard from the grassroots and what's been obvious since the New York Times has an article about it, a couple articles about it today, actually. And that's just that they, I've said it before, they just feel that Mitt Romney was very disloyal to Donald Trump, very specific and scathing in his criticisms during the primary. And also there are other people who are very qualified that have been interviewed for this position. We publicly have said there are probably 4 people right now that have been the narrowed down choices. It includes General Petraeus and Senator Bob Corker from Tennessee. Obviously, Governor Romney is still in the mix. People have been talking about Mayor Giuliani. But it's an important decision, and it can't be rushed because some in the media want a story that day or think you should be forming a cabinet at that hour. It's an important decision, and I think the other thing that the president-elect will do is take the counsel of the people who are already on his national security team to help guide this decision. But ultimately, it's his decision, and we all know that.
Indeed, and they said a lot more announcements will come next week. But over the weekend, the thank you tour and other stops continue. Where did the idea come from to say, hey, we're going to project back onto the people a thank you? Obviously, the president-elect thrives in that environment. And what does it say about the type of president that he will be?
It's a great question, Pete. The answer is the idea was his, and he oversees all of those details in that. He knows he's not on the campaign trail anymore. These are not the traditional campaign rallies where you're asking people to vote for you, you're going through your 10-point plan, but it really is to go back and thank people. And I think as president, you're going to see him actively engaging with the American people where they live. Some presidents don't like to get out of Washington, D.C. much to go and do that. I was really struck by a couple of articles when President Obama was on the trail for Secretary Clinton. An article would say he hasn't been in the States since 2012. I'm like, wow, how can that be? That's not going to happen with President Trump. He wants to go where the people are. And as you can see, people love seeing their president in their midst, showing up and doing things. So he's going to go back to some of those states that put him over the top. People are really excited about it. He gets oxygen from the people. He famously enjoys the company of everyday workers and the forgotten man, forgotten woman that he gave such voice and visibility to in his campaign. And that tells you how his administration will run as well.
You believed him, and Steve had an interview with a guy that works at Carrier, and he said, I got a little tickled. He said, because everyone at work who always gave me a hard time for supporting Donald Trump, now they're all pro-Trump now because he saved their jobs. So what happens next week? What can we expect next week from Donald Trump?
I wanted to say too, Ainsley, and Trump is pro them, even the ones who didn't vote for he and Governor Pence, Vice President-elect Pence. This is about bringing Americans together and getting results early on. So next week you'll continue perhaps to see more of the cabinet take form, and the president-elect and vice president-elect will continue to do what they've been doing. Probably 75 or 80 people now they've had in to speak with them about their advice, their counsel, their experiences, their vision for the country, some of whom end up in the cabinet, some of whom are there to offer the advice or take other positions in the administration, some who just are happy to actually give that advice and that counsel. And then, of course, they'll continue to talk to world leaders. There are some other world leaders that are on the schedule, and that's probably up to 45 or so now. Wow. World leaders they've either met with or talked to over the phone. You can expect that to continue.
All right, very good. He's got a busy week ahead of him, as do you. Kellyanne Conway, thanks very much for joining us.
Be careful at Harvard.
Watch your 6, okay?
Thank you for thinking of our viewers who love to hear from you. We appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, excellent.